So up through Beginner's Guide Part 3 of Xcelsius, what we've done is we've learned how to use several of the controls, whether they be a pie chart, a combination chart, a horizontal slider, or a drop-down menu. We've learned how to display information, but we've also learned how to interact with our dashboards. So now in Part 4 of our Beginner's Guide, what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring data into Xcelsius using web services. And I'm putting that in the beginner's guide because it's really a fundamental piece of Xcelsius. It's probably one of the most popular ways that you're going to bring data into Xcelsius. Other than if you have the full business objects environment, you can bring data in from a universe using query as web service. However, if you don't have that, most likely you're going to be using a web service. So I'm starting off where I left off on part 3. However, I've deleted everything except for the pie chart. And I've also deleted the data that was down in my spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to preview this. And I'm showing you that it just works with static data. This is just static data that I have down in my spreadsheet. So what I've done is I've actually written my own web service. And I have it running locally on my PC. However, it doesn't have to be running locally. You can actually you can try some of the free web services that they're out on the internet, just so you can try calling them, and it's a good practice to do that. However, I've developed my own. It's a .NET web service. However, it doesn't have to be .NET. It could be Java. It could be, like I said, .NET, or it could be any other kind of web service that's out there, any other kind of development environment that provides a web service. So I'm going to bring up my development environment for my web service, and here is my code. So I have this method called getFriends, and it returns an array of friend objects. So I'm not going to really get into the .NET code, but basically I initialize my objects and then I set their values. So if I look at the friend object specifically, it has two properties. It has a name and a friend count. So when I expect that data to come to Xcelsius, I should expect a name and a friend count. So let me go ahead and minimize this. And then what I'll do is, I already have it open in my browser. I have the URL to my web service, and I'm going to copy that. And what you're looking at now is just what they call the WSDL. It just kind of defines the web service, what the methods are, the types. But what you really need is this WSDL URL. And I'm going to go to my data manager and hit add web service connection. And in the WSDL URL box, I'm going to paste in my WSDL URL, hit import. And now in my methods drop down, it's going to bring in all the methods that are available to me. So I have this getFriends method and this hello world method. So notice if I go back to my .NET development environment, I have getFriends and I also have hello world. So I want to get friends though. So notice here's my name and friend count, or we showed you those in the development environment for .NET. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab this friend object, which contains the name and the friend count, and I'm going to map those cells to these cells here. Now I know I'm going to get back 5 friends, so I'm going to map 5 cells, and just so you know it's actually getting data from the web service, I only have 4, so when I run this you'll see 5 pieces of data. But in order for this to work, I have to go over to the usage tab and tell it to refresh before components are loaded. Hit close. And now when I preview this, you'll see the 5 friends that are coming back and their friend counts. So there you go, there's the 5, and these numbers are coming from my web service. They're not hard-coded anywhere. When I unpreview this, they're not here. I'll show you that my values are mapped right there, and my labels are mapped right there. So another neat way of showing you this, and I like to do this when I'm trying to debug because it's easier than exporting my data, is I'll put a spreadsheet table right on my canvas and I'll map my data. So here we go, let me map this data and I'll preview, and again there's the data that I brought in from my web service on preview. So just to show you another example though, I don't have to just use the one method. I can actually use another method, but I have to add a separate connection. So I'll say again add web service connection. So now connection 2, I'll paste in my WSDL, import, and I'm going to do this hello world method. So again, if I look at the code, the hello world method just returns a single string of hello world. So that's all I should expect back. So I'm going to take this hello world and I'm going to map it to E1. Hit OK. Usage, refresh before components are loaded, and then I'll hit close. And then what I do, I actually got to show you that data on the screen. So what I'll do is I'll come down to the text and I'll grab a label, put the label on the screen, link to cell to E1, and then I'll preview. And there's my hello world. So notice I've got my get friends web service data as well as my hello world data. So you can have several web services firing on your dashboard at the same time. And that's basically how you get web service data into Xcelsius.